One-on-one, never lost. Went to the finals, never lost.
You never got there, LeVar.
Who?
You.
I've been a one-on-one champ. Never lost one-on-one.
All right.
Back at it again. It's the guy Spencer. You know what time it is. It's time for the top 10 most intriguing games of the week. We're going into week 3 of this already fantastic East Texas football season. Man, a lot of teams are doing a really much improved, and some teams are falling off the wagon just a little bit. But you know what time it is. Time to get into the top 10 most intriguing games of the week. But before we get into that, we got to shout out Tyler High. They're our team of the week this week. They beat Tyler Legacy in one of the most historic rivalries in East Texas, where you got two teams from the same city, Tyler High and Tyler Legacy. John Tyler and Tyler Lee. They faced off past Friday, and Tyler High topped Tyler Legacy 28-14 in the Rose City Classic. So they're our city of the not our city of the week. They're our top team of the week after last week winning that rivalry game in the city of Tyler. As you can see that picture there, those Lions were pretty excited to knock off Legacy once again. I think they got the lead. I'm not sure what the lead of that series is. But nonetheless, that's the team of the week. Let's get into the top 10 players from last week. At number 10, it's the senior receiver from Harmony. It is Tyson Jenkins. Jenkins had 4 catches, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, a passing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown, and a 73-32 win over White Oak. White Oak, man, they can't catch a break. They have been giving up buckets all year long. 72-point average on defense this year, as White Oak gave up 71 to Troop, and then last week they gave up 73 to Harmony. As you see Tyson just making an incredible catch after catch after catch, play after play after play. He's already a big dude. He's about 6'3", and then you go out there against a defense that ain't that talented, and this guy just kind of did however he wanted to. A total of 5 touchdowns, a rushing, a throwing, and 3 receiving touchdowns on the night for Tyson Jenkins. At number 9, Cole Jackson, the outside linebacker and running back from Westworld, 17 carries, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. But he also had 18 tackles, a sack, and then he had an interception return for 2 points as he went 99 yards the long way, all the way back to the crib. So Cole Jackson, of course, they had a great effort out of their running back. He went over 200, but when you add in the fact he had 18 tackles and plenty of tackles behind the line of scrimmage, and that 99-yard interception return, on top of going over 100 yards against Sabine, who I think Sabine may have been without their quarterback. Didn't read much about him, so that'll be interesting to see as this year progresses. At number 8, Jet Surratt from Carthage. One half of football, 21-26, over 260 yards and 5 touchdowns, all in the first half against Pittsburgh last Friday night. Had a little shaky start to the year, 3 interceptions against Kilgore, but they got that right, man. They got it right this next week against Pittsburgh. 5 first half touchdowns with 5 incompletions, 21 for 26. So it's a good day for Surratt. Kind of expected to see, everybody thought he was going to come out and do these kind of things from day one. It's kind of interesting to see, Kilgore go out there and find some stops. That tells you what they were about that defense. But Carthage 2-0 on the year as they get a big win over Pittsburgh behind the throwing of Jet Surratt. At number 7, Mason McMinn, 19-27 for 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and a big win over Sulfur Springs. I kind of had this one of the games of the week last week. I'm really excited about this Mount Pleasant team. Their basketball team has been really good over the last 3 or 4 years. But now with Mason McMinn and some of those outstanding players that they got out there out wide, they're starting to look like something on the football field too. Mason is a hell of a ball player. He'll be interesting to watch. He's going to put up a hell of a highlight tape, so you can definitely probably expect him on the top 100 as long as he stays healthy. He plays with a lot of swagger and a lot of charisma, and he's fun to watch from the highlights for sure. So Mason McMinn, big week. He got a big win over Sulfur Springs, who I probably would have picked to win this game, but I didn't. So I'm good there. At number 7, No, I'm sorry. At number 6, Jamari Manning of Athens, 17 carries, 223 yards, 3 touchdowns. Defensively had an interception to go with that as well. Manning, number 91 on the list last year. One of those guys that is an impact player, both in the secondary for Athens, and then he is a hell of a running back as he goes for 200 plus against. I don't even know who they played last week. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, but he had a great game. He came in at number 6. Big week from Jamari Manning, a guy that I'm expecting to probably make the top 100 once again in 2023. At number 5, David Potter, 18 of 31 for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, and a 41-38 win over Colleyville Heritage for Texas High. Potter has impressed. He's gotten better. He got better last year towards the end of the year as a sophomore, and then he's looked really good in the first 2 games for Texas High this year. Threw for a bunch of yards against Lone Star, and then turns around, throws for 288 and 3 tugs against Colleyville Heritage in this next week. They play Benton, Louisiana this next week, so it'll be interesting to see what Potter and the Texas High Tigers can do going into the next week. At number 4, Dawson Witherspoon from Mount Vernon, 33 carries, 240 plus yards, and all 6 touchdowns of Mount Vernon's touchdowns last week as they pulled off a 42-26 win over Gladewater. Tough schedule for Gladewater out the gate. You got Dangerfield's explosive selves, and then now you've got Mount Vernon in this past week who kind of exploded on the ground, over 200 plus yards for Dawson this past year. So it'll be interesting to see what Mount Vernon does, and then also to see how they continue to grow in this running game. Last week was more so the pass for Mount Vernon. This week they decided to pound this thing, and the running back goes for 6 touchdowns against Gladewater, who's not soft at all. You run for 6 touchdowns against Gladewater, you've got a lot of physical toughness, because Gladewater is one of those teams that like to get muddy and physical things up on both sides of the football. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with both of these teams as we continue on throughout the year. At number 3, Adam Thompson from Brownsboro. What a game he had. Over 300 yards, 328 yards and through the air. Also added some on the ground as well as they exploded to beat, I believe, Fairfield. The Brownsboro beat Fairfield this past year. Of course, Brownsboro's got the all-world receiver in Jakyle Baker, who was number 100 on the list last year, the TCU commit. But Adam Thompson did a good job of spreading the ball around. He wasn't the only player that scored for Brownsboro this past week. He's a mobile kind of quarterback. He's a guy that can move around in the pocket. And we'll just see what happens with these Brownsboro, I believe they're the Bears. And we'll just see what happens with this group as the year progresses and how good this offense can be. At number 2, Jacaden Bolden from Hallsville, 25 carries, 253 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 35-28 win over Henderson for the Hallsville Bobcats. Jacaden Bolden is a physical runner. He's a great inside zone runner. He's a guy that I know real well. Went to Longview for his first couple of years of high school, and then he went back. He lives in Hallsville, went back to his home place, and is now the starting running back over there. And it's great to see him have a successful game, especially early in the year. Kind of missed the dude, which he was in green and white, but you know how it goes when you're playing for your hometown. So congratulations to Bolden. Great explosive week against Henderson. 253 yards, 3 touchdowns. And they needed every one of those yards and every one of those scores as the Bobcats pull off the 35-28 win over the Lions on last week. And the number 1 player from this past week is from Pine Tree, Matthew Cates, MJ Cates, 9 of 14 for 210 yards. And then he added 2 touchdowns. And then you add another 200-something yards on the ground and another 2 scores as Pine Tree 42-22 win. Or maybe 3-3. I think he went 3 touchdowns through the air and 3 touchdowns on the ground. 42-22 win over Lindale. I probably would have picked Lindale going to this game, seeing how Pine Tree played against Van the week before. So it was impressive to see this offense explode the way that they did. Lindale obviously is a good run football team, but didn't do enough on defense this week. They couldn't stop the run from Cates or the passing, for that matter, as Cates sprinted and threw his way past Lindale this past week to become the number 1 player of the week for week 2. So let's get into the top 10 plays of the week. At number 10 It is Kilgore. It is Derek Williams chucking one up deep. I believe that's P.J. Wiley out there. I can't see who the receiver is, but a perfectly thrown ball on the 40-yard touchdown pass there. And number 9, speaking of perfectly thrown balls, Andrew Tutt laying up this wheel and putting it in the breadbasket of Ethan Harrison. Great accuracy there as Longview beat up on Marshall. And number 8, it's Demetrius Brisbane. Who else? Watch this juke after he takes his own read. Whoop! Oh my goodness! Oh my God! He puts boys on skates like no other in East Texas. Man, strong case to be in the top 5 after some of the highlights he's done. At number 7, Brady Driver throwing an interception on the goal line, and this is against Mount Pleasant, and he's gonna. Oh my goodness! He made a miss, and he skates the rest of the way. A 101-yard interception return back to the crib for the Tigers from Mount Pleasant. Number 6, it's Taylor Tatum. It's a 53-yard run. It's well executed up front. Whoop! Nice little juke. And let's hit the accelerator and bash on the gas. Touchdown, Taylor Tatum. At number 5, it's Ricky Stewart. A 77-yard touchdown. He was playing quarterback on that play, took the direct snap, and he's just going to dance down that sideline all the way down the field. To my people that used to watch games at Justin, all the way down the field into the end zone. At number 4 is Boston Seahorn. This time he's looking up with Tyson Jenkins. I think you guys saw this play earlier. Does a great job of pumping it and giving them guys a chance. Throws it high. Mosses the DB. He falls. He stays up. And he goes all the way into the end zone for the long touchdown for the Eagles. Bouncing back. They're 1-1. And number 3, Gilmer. This is, I believe, Eli Holt. I don't know. That's not Eli Holt. That's one of them boys out there. I don't know who it is. It's number 7. He takes a jet sweep. Made my boy miss. Great move on him. Gets a block down the sideline. Takes a jet sweep all the way to the end zone. At number 2 is Nacogdoches receiver Jalen Brown. And their game against Lufkin. Hey, let's just throw one up. Beat the corner. Almost fall. And let's go a long way. Hey, it's just my dude's better than yours. And that's a touchdown for Nac. And the number 1 play is a Kilgore field goal kicker kicking the game-winning field goal, putting it through the uprights, winning the game for Kilgore as they defeated Gilmer, as Gilmer starts 0-2. So let's get into it. The top 10 most intriguing games of the week. Here we go. Starting at number 10 is Marshall and Henderson. So Marshall coming off of a big loss to Longview. They had a great first drive of that game. They drove it all the way down the field, converted, I think, a 4th down on top of that, and then just kind of punched it Longview in the mouth. Came out, went up 7-0, and then it was over after that. So they're coming off of a tough game against Longview, a team that's probably better. Well, I know probably a team that's better than them. But now they're getting a chance to play Henderson, and they're going to get a chance to show their physicality and try to lean against Henderson. Henderson had a tough time stopping Hallsville on the ground, and this is what Marshall does. Marshall is a running football team that likes to sprinkle in the pass here and there, but no quarrels about it. This team likes to run the football, and they are going to run the football, and it'll be very interesting to see if Jordan Smiley and company from Henderson can keep up with this Marshall running game. Expect this to be the shortest game of the weekend, because as far as time goes, because this clock is going to run, because both teams run the football. Henderson throws it a little bit too, but Marshall's going to run it, and if they're getting first downs, that game could be over by 8:45. My goodness. Marshall and Henderson at number 10. Give me the Mavs. At number 9, Hallsville versus Sulfur Springs. Hallsville led by senior quarterback Ethan Miller, who played wide receiver last year. They beat up on freaking Henderson last week and ran the ball all over them. They're going to see what they can do against Sulfur Springs. Brady Driver comes back. They just took a tough loss to Mount Pleasant. So Sulfur Springs a little bit hungry. They got a chance to redeem themselves against Hallsville. Hallsville coming off a very physical win against Henderson. Can they repeat that physicality against Sulfur Springs? I have no idea. It'll be interesting to watch. Give me the Wildcats in this one. I'm going with Sulfur Springs over Hallsville. And number 8, Winnsboro, led by Kyler Finney, 2-0 on the year. Once again, another explosive offensive scene from them. He throws for about 240 yards last week. Clean football, no interceptions. They ran the ball well with Tyson Johnson again. I think he was like at 80-something yards. So a very great showing from Winnsboro last week. But this time they've got Hooks, and Hooks is tough, man. Hooks came out and they beat Harmony, which I did not expect in the first week of the year, led by Keyshawn Walls, the senior tailback. I believe he's a senior this year. He's that or a junior, I'm not sure. But he's a very big running back. He is physical. He can tote the load, and if they can't stop him early, this could be a long night for that defense over there in Winnsboro. I'm going with the Winnsboro Wildcats. I think they're going to win this football game. I think they got too much offense, and if they get Hooks down by more than 2 possessions early on, it could be over with, because I don't know if Hooks has the firepower to keep up with what Finney and those boys in Winnsboro can do. At number 7, the Rusk Eagles versus Athens. Deep East Texas right here, right? Rusk and Athens getting it on this Friday. Rusk has a good quarterback transfer in. He's coming from another place, and he lit it up last week. It'll be interesting to see what he can do again in this new system and with this new team. And then you've got Athens, who are coming off a big win last week, led by an incredible performance from Jamari Manning. So I think Rusk is probably going to win this game. I think they're a little bit more explosive than Athens is on offense, but I do think this will be a very interesting matchup, and I don't think this game will be as easy as it was the year before when Rusk and Athens lined it up. So give me the Rusk Eagles in this one. At number 6, Lindale and Van, and this will be a very interesting game to watch. Two teams that love to run the football, two teams that have strong offensive lines. Van, of course, Ace Bostic and Jose Suarez on their offensive line. They like to run the football. Jackson Moffett is a good quarterback. And they're kind of almost, I'm not going to say they're identical, because I think Van plays a little bit better defense than Lindale does. And this will be interesting to see. But it will be interesting to see if Van's defense can hold up against Lindale in that tough running game that they have. Lindale coming off a tough loss to a Pine Tree. Now they're playing a team that's a little bit smaller than them after playing a team that's a little bit bigger than them. The physicality, there will be a difference in between the two. That probably leans well for Lindale after playing a tougher team last week. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. I think Lindale will get the hand over Van this week. At number 5, it's Kilgore and Pine Tree. A lot of two teams coming off wins. They're both 1-1. Kilgore, I think, has had the tougher schedule coming out of the gate, playing Carthage first and now playing Gilmer. Team, and really Kilgore struggled all throughout the game until the fourth quarter, where they lit it up at the end, and they stole one away from Gilmer. And I think Kilgore is probably has to be the favorite going into this one. Even though Pine Tree did a great job of beating up Lindale last week, NJ Case was incredible. Can he repeat that performance? I don't know. I kind of like Kilgore a little bit more. I think they've got better playmakers on both sides of the football maybe than Pine Tree. But it would not surprise me if Case went off and did his thing again in a back-to-back week. So give me Kilgore, but we'll see what happens. At number 4 is White House versus Corsicana. Corsicana is 2-0 this year, led by Darrell Smith, their running back. He's had incredible 2 weeks. And then, of course, Josh Green, Mr. Tim Tebow, basically, for White House. They bounced back after a tough North Forney loss in the first week, but they bounced back in week 2. Green, a strong game. Like I said, and I said it in preseason, it's not going to be one of those 300, 400-yard game type years for Josh Green, but what he can do is both control the clock with his feet and control what happens with that football, throwing it in his accuracy. If he does not turn the ball over and he has a strong game running the football, which I know he can, I believe that the boys in White House will win this game and go 2-1. Here we go at number 3, Texas High versus Benton, Louisiana. I believe this one's back at home. I think Texas High is playing at home this week. They played, I think, in Benton last year. Texas High is a really good football team. And if they can keep it together and not have one of those playoff blunders like mishaps like they've been having the last 2 years, and if you know, you know, I think if they can stay healthy, stay eligible, this team can make a deep, deep run because they are physical as hell on both sides of the football. I think they've got a really good quarterback in David Potter. He's emerging and starting to look like he's going to have a very special junior year. And I really, really like these Texas High Tigers. This will be an interesting game if you're in the East Texas area. Go check out the Texas High Tigers versus Benton. They had a shootout last year, and I don't know what Benton is bringing back as far as an explosive offensive standpoint, but I know Texas High can put up points. They've been put on points the last 2 weeks, and I think they're going to do it again. So if you want a show and you're in that upper northeast Texas area, go check out the Texas High Tigers, as I think they'll win this week. And number 2, it's a rematch of last year. Lufkin went down to A&M Consolidated. Both teams were 2-0. A&M Consolidated was ranked number 3 in the state at the time, and Lufkin went down there and put the shellacking on them boys at their place. A&M Consolidated is coming up to Lufkin this year. It'll be interesting to see. I think they're looking for revenge. So I think A&M Consolidated is going to play very, very motivated. Lufkin 2-0, a big win over NAC. I really did not see that coming, to be honest with you. I thought NAC, especially with the emergence of Jalen Brown, and he did go off. He did have 2 or 3 touchdowns, but I did think that NAC was probably going to get the best of Lufkin. Lufkin showed that they still got some Lufkin pride in there. So this will be a very interesting matchup to see how Lufkin holds up. Can they meet the intensity that I think A&M Consolidated is going to bring? I think they're going to come in there ready to try to look for revenge after last year. And so this will be a very, very intriguing matchup. Let's go with the Pack. I want them boys undefeated when they come to Lobo Stadium next week. So let's go with the Pack and winning this game. At number 1 is Timpson again. Timpson and Dangerfield. Back-to-back weeks where Dangerfield, to me, is the most intriguing game. Last week against Tatum, they won 34-17. Chase Johnson did what Chase Johnson does, throws the football well, ran it well too. Just not enough to be in the top 10 this week, but he had a pretty strong game. And then Timpson, they're coming off of a strong effort from Vosky Howard. 10 carries, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. J.J. Garner, 22 carries, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns in their win last week. Timpson beat on Dangerfield last year in Dangerfield. Now Dangerfield has to go to Timpson. Dangerfield looking for revenge. Dangerfield probably has the most weapons, and if Perry Bussey ain't playing, I think I got to go with the Dangerfield Tigers. I think they go ahead, and I think I think they just got more firepower, more players than I think Timpson does, and this will be a hell of a matchup. Very, very interesting to watch this one play out. But give me the Tigers here in this shootout game against Timpson. And that is your top 10 most intriguing games of the week. It's the guy Spence. You know what time it is. You know what I do. Same time next week. Check it out. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. Go ahead and do that. Help your boy out. Share, like, love, subscribe, all that good shit.